My reflections, your reflections, our reflections. What is hot today? I'm here to reflect. Join me in Hot Reflections with Terry P. In the olden days of Kwame Nkrumah and the fellow giants in the 1960s and 1970s, we saw a great movement, a vision where it was about strengthening the African, Pan-Africanism. And this journey and this dream was about Africa unification, was about Africa liberation. It was also about, uniting the solidarity of Africans. Fast forward 21st century, where are we? Where is the dream? Where are we going? How our ancestors have tried to get all these African and the diaspora together, but where is it that we are moving towards right now? Now, with me, I have special guests, which we are going to be talking about strengthening the Pan-Africanism and network in the North America and the diaspora. And in this discussion, we want to see where we are moving forward into what our ancestors built. Our ancestors were looking at the African United States of Africa. Is that dream still there? Is it still possible that we can still achieve that dream that was long dreamt many years and many thousand years ago? Forget about the history and how we all came back. Everybody knows how we all ended up here. But what we want to do now is to take everyone and we move forward. With me, I have Mr. Onyekachi Makalu Kalu, and he's the chairman of the African Unity 6th Region. I have Barbara Stewart, the Secretary General of the African 6th Region, and I have Nee Connie as well, the second, and he is the founder and executive of the African Diaspora History Library. Greetings and welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Greetings to the motherland and the diaspora. I'm actually going to ask them to introduce themselves, separately. They will do a better job than me.
Thank you very much, my sister Teresa. Once again, just as you said, my name is Macaulay Onyekachi Obase Kalu. Interesting thing is, as Africans, names mean a lot to us, and we just don't give names, we give it with meaning, because your name is who you are. And so Macaulay, even though it's a part of an English name, is known as a child of righteousness. Onyekachi means it's a native name from the Igbo-speaking language of the eastern part of Nigeria. Onyekachi means who is greater than God. And Obase, which is still part of the Igbo, means God in heaven. And Kalo means the God that speaks like thunder. So you could see the full package of the full meaning of who I am and how I operate, because that's who I am. So thank you for having me, and I represent the Africa Unity 6th Region, Canada.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And for you, Miss Barbara Stewart.
Thank you for having me. My name is Barbara Nguzika Stewart. I was born in Jamaica.
Okay.
Motherland roots, Nigeria. And I'm very happy to be a part of the African Unity 6th Region.
Thank you for coming. And Mr. Connie?
My name is Nitayua Okreja Connie. I'm the Executive Director and founder of the Africa Diaspora History Library, using history as one of the tools to redeem our people.
That's a really interesting project that you have there. And when you talk about history and we talk about the diaspora, how can you tell us a little bit, take us back into the history of the diaspora without going way too far back, just so that we can come back to why we want to strengthen this diaspora here?
History is an important part of what Africans as a whole has to do in this particular decade. In other words, if I can quote something from Dr. Mayo Angelou, said, if you don't know how you get here, then you wouldn't even know where you're going. And so we're just looking back in order to look forward. And so this decade, we will use history, as I mentioned earlier, as a tool. How does history empower us? Because as a people, our strength is in the past, not so much of the present. Because the past we did great things, inventions, pyramids, we built libraries.
Yes.
So that's where our strength is. So we're just tapping into the past so that we can have a better future. And that's my excitement with history and what I want to use to actually empower the youth and to get ready, because our time is coming up.
Mr. Kalu, you know, you are in the African Unity 6th region, and I would like you to actually, you know, elaborate exactly what is the African Unity 6th region. Where do we, what does it mean to what we are talking about today?
Thank you very much. The aspect of the 6th region of the continent of Africa came about the fact that the continent of Africa used to be known as Organization of African Unity, which is the former OAU. And the OAU, you know, gathered its agenda and vision based on getting rid of the colonial issues that we were dealing with, to be an independent nation that we have always been, right, until we had some interference in the process. And so after getting that done, the continent felt, now we've done that, we need to move forward. So what's the next agenda? And that's where they had a transition from OAU to African Union. And in creating the African Union, they wanted to make sure that everybody is involved in the process, and which includes the diaspora. And so they decided to think, how best can we do it that everybody of global Africa family is involved in the process? And that's where, you know, reaching out to the diaspora, knowing the diaspora is very involved in the economic development and growth of the continent through their remittance and through volunteerism and through different services that they are bringing, which is in billions and has been known to be the best economic empowerment that the continents have ever experienced. And so having said that, they felt, well, the diaspora need to be fully engaged in the process. And so there were consultations and discussions and conversations on how we can get the diaspora moving forward. Having done that, they decided to create what they call the 6th region of the continent. It wasn't an easy process. It took a long deliberation. But having started the process from the OAU perspective to the AU, the African Union, they had to adjust their constitution to include the 6th region, which is the diaspora. And having done that, if you go to Article 3Q of the African Union Constitution, you will see the amendments and adjustment that was done officially under the African Union to include the diaspora. And then in 2012, there was a launch of the 6th region, you know, platform. So the continent of Africa is known as 5 regions. You have the Northern Africa, Southern Africa, East, West, and Central Africa. And these are member states that form each region. Giving you an example from the area that I come from, West Africa, Ghana, and all that. So there are about 16 countries that form the West African states. So we call Economic Community of West African States. Okay. And so that's 16 regions, 16 countries that form one region. So the same thing you have. So Africa overall is known to be 55 countries, 54 of which are member states based on treaties signed and agreement that they operate. The only official country that is not, the only country that is not an official member is Morocco, but still participate as a continent, you know, country and all that. And so having said all that, the 6th region was declared in 2012 when all heads of states of Africa and member states or places that we can identify the diaspora of people of African descent gathered together to accept their, you know, the process of creating the 6th region. Now that was done in 2012, but now the process is working what we call the legal framework that helps us with the structure of the relationship between the continent and its diaspora, which is where we are now, to solidify that establishment of the 6th region. And that is what has moved us to where we are now. After going through all different consultation globally, we have come to a point of saying now there is a time to strengthen what we call the Pan-African Network. Why Pan-African Network?
I was going to ask you that. Like, why Pan-African Network?
Yeah, so the Pan-African Network is that, Pan-Africanism has been something that has been there, because I could tell people, even though for me I'm born in Africa, but Africa is born in me. And so it doesn't matter how many years that you're far gone from the continent of Africa, you are still African. We know history that, life began in Africa. There's no argument about that.
Yes.
And so the fact that life began in Africa, it doesn't matter how far, how many generations that you've been disconnected. So first, it doesn't matter irrespective of your citizenship or nationality or wherever. So first, you remain affiliated and connected with your motherland, which is Africa. So you are an African. And I tell people, if you have confusion of that, check your DNA. If you have 1% of African, you're an African, because Africa dominates everything. So.
Okay, so that takes me to Barbara. You are born in Jamaica, and how does that connection? How did you get to find that you had to connect? Because we have people from the Caribbean, people in America, people all over that have been displaced in all that. To actually find that voice and say, okay, I have this place. How did you get to be connected into knowing that you are actually part of Africa when you are probably the fourth, fifth generation?
Thank you, Teresa. Initially, way back in Jamaica, when the apartheid movement was going on, and we
in
were
South Africa.
It was going on in South Africa, but the world was participating and aware of it, and we were told from home, you're from Africa. Your roots is Africa. When I came to Canada, when I migrated to Canada, and actually meet my brothers and sisters, that was like a joy to me. The passion of seeing them is like he would say, he's born in Africa, but Africa was born in him. I was born in Jamaica, but Africa was born in me. I am African from birth. So for me, it was, I think it was more spiritual, that I was able to embrace it and feeling connected to the continent. I had the privilege of participating in the establishment of the 6th region in South Africa, 2012.
Wow.
So I was part of that, and to experience that, and it was one of the most amazing and graceful thing for me to be able to be there to hear that the 6th region was established. So coming in contact with where Mr. Kalu leading the process of the 6th region here, we actually started 2010 before it was fully developed or adopted in South Africa. And the movement has strengthened me, and getting the opportunity to go to Nigeria and Ghana, Benin, Togo, Ethiopia has solidified my roots and connected me, found my roots, traced my roots, and found it back in Nigeria, where I embrace.
Wow. Would you say that then other people, the Caribbean, Asian, African Caribbeans would feel that there is a void actually lacking? There is a void in between that is stopping us from actually connecting and coming together and actually supporting this movement, because this movement is for all of us.
Yes.
It seems like a really great idea. Have you mentioned to some people and they say, I've never heard of this? Is this something that is excitement?
There are lots of people who are actually having that void and wanting to belong to their home, find their home, find their roots. And people have come into the organization and express that void and that emptiness and that passion to find where they come from, which through education, dialoguing, and things like that in our town hall meetings, they just feel like they find themselves and be able to identify with their roots. Through town hall meetings, education, the commissions that we're operating under, we are sending the message out. Even being here is one of the ways that we're sending the message out for people to understand and know. Those who are still in some state of confusion, where they belong, it's not that they don't know that they belong to Africa, but where in Africa they may be asking, where in Africa am I from? How do I find the place that I need to go? But as we build and strengthen the Pan-African network, this is how we are going to help people to find themselves.
Great. Now, Mr. Connie, as we're talking about strengthening, the Pan-Africanism and in the diaspora, you have concentrated in most of your work in your project of the Nile of looking at the African diaspora. In the history and all of that, how does this information impact or shed light into what you have been working on of the history, trying to bring this vision together?
Basically, to add to what Mr. Kalu was saying, the diaspora should look back at history and know that we've been connected, but somehow we took our eyes off the ball. Let me use some examples to remind you about the connection. Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, which is the first country to become independent in West Africa in 1957, was inspired by Marcus Garvey.
Yes.
And L.R. James from Trinidad, George Padmore from Trinidad.
Yes.
You know, Malcolm X from the United States, Dr. King from the United States. And so it was the diaspora who actually instilled in the African people that we need to reclaim our continent. So we have had that bond, but somehow between 1957 and 1970, we became so complacent that we thought the battle has been won. And therefore we went on holidays. We began to party and not recognizing that to call ourselves as conquerors, we have to conquer. And you have to, a conqueror is one who have gone to battle or won a battle. So we can't claim to be conquerors when the battle is not over. And so this is the resurgence of the African spirit that united us, that brought Marcus Garvey's name, Black Star, to Ghana. Our soccer team is called Black Star. It was given to us by Marcus Garvey. Our national flag have Black Star in the middle. It was given to us by Marcus Garvey. So we know that the African continent have already connected with the diaspora, but they need to look at the history, that this connection started a long time ago. And this second time around, when we found it, we have to hold it tight. And to do that, we need to put certain things in place, laws and regulations, so that what had happened then 500 years ago will never happen again.
That is great, because that takes you to exactly some of the commissions. Would you like to explain to us exactly what it is? Because that's just the laws that he's talking about that have been put in place. We don't want to go back 400 years back again. We have not done, you know, you've seen how our forefathers had tried, you know, to bring Pan-Africanism, and they've moved people from Caribbeans to the Sierra Leone to Ghana. Maybe how do we know that now this project that we have now in the diaspora is going to actually work?
Thank you very much. Some of the things that, you know, that has helped to believe and know and have the assurance that we can move forward is the fact that we've begun to plan properly ahead. Because, you know, having an agenda, having a calendar helps you a lot. And so when the African Union, you know, in completion of the OAU and now turned into AU, became 50 years, which was in 2013, they decided to create a projection of what they expect to see in the next 50 years. The Africa they want to see 50 years to come. And then there were a lot of work done to put together a package. And so there was a lot of consultation from all the 5 regions, including then the 6th region, which is newly created, to have a consultation to come up with a plan. And that led to what we call Agenda 2063. Anybody can find it, you can Google it, and you'll find Agenda 2063, a well-written document that explains the next 50 years of Africa. And so having put that together, now we have a goal. We are not confused where we're going. Anybody can see that and see direction where Africa is going. And that has helped Africa for the past 3 years since that came out, that Africa is not the next frontier. Yes. Everybody is here in Africa, the economic boom and all that. You know, part of that agenda said that Africa need to have one passport. This year, July, we launched the first African Union passport. It was given to all the heads of state and their ministers, and now there is a plan and a program to make sure that all the citizenry gets this passport. That's one of the great achievements that has come within this agenda that was put forward. The second part was to make Africa to have a free trade among itself. Before it was based on regions. Now there is a free trade across Africa. And so there are, the Agenda 2063, when you read about it, you will find out that we have a plan, we have a focus, and it's helping us to move forward. And all we're doing is to educate our people. And so when you talk about diaspora, whether in the Caribbean or, you know, every part of the world, you have, you know. Now the thing that we want to say, especially my brother Kone had talked about, especially history. Now we are Africans. Right? It doesn't matter what has happened. Here in Canada, we are called African Canadians. There's no other name. If you identify as a person of African descent, the national government, the federal government of Canada recognizes you as an African Canadian. No other name.
Like African American.
African Americans, it's the same thing. So which means it doesn't matter how many generations that you felt you're disconnected. Africa is still in you. You're still Africa. And so by now accepting who you are, accepting your identity, being able to educate yourself that you're a king, you're a queen, you're a prince, that's who you are. Because civilization and everything started in Africa. So many philosophers that people talk about in Greece, I mean, they can check it out.
Yes.
You know, all study in Africa. Most
Yes.
of them went to university in Egypt and also Ethiopia have a lot to do in our history. As a matter of fact, the whole Africa used to be called in the 18th centuries, 1800s, was just called Ethiopia. Right? Until, you know, the war that made the general Afrikaans from Italy, you know, based on so much of the area he defeated, he gave the name Africa to what we have today. So sure, we have it, but the fact that we accept to be called Africans, we are Africans. And it doesn't matter where you come from, you're an African. So by now educating ourselves and accepting who we are, let's leave what has happened in the past. We know the involvement, we know the story, we know just like what you're saying. The essence here now is we are moving forward.
Exactly.
Things has been done in the past, but the challenge in the past was that there was no structure, there was no unified agenda. Even though they tried, the one agenda that they did was just to deal with colonial issues.
Yes.
That was one agenda, and they got it done. Like my brother said, that was achieved in the 50s and 60s. And then by the 70s, there was a lot of, okay, now we've done that. So what is the next thing, right? And you know, it's interesting it took us all these years to get to the 20th century now, to now have a 50-year plan to say, here is who we are here. So, you know, on talking about that, there is a brochure, it's also on our website, but there is a brochure that talks about the African Union and the diaspora, right? So we have this brochure, you know, and even with the process of strengthening the diaspora, there's more information that's going to be coming from the AU as well, a special also document to talk about this special plan moving forward. And so this answers all the questions, talks about the definition of who is a diasporan, talks about the vision, and as part of what you are asking about, you know, how do we move forward. And so we operate on what we call commissions.
Yes.
So there are basically 8 commissions that we operate from, which is called Global Dialogue, International Relations, Peace and Stability. It's one commission. We have Economic Cooperation and Sustainable Development, which is another commission. We have Historical, Social, Cultural, and Religious Commonalities and Challenges. It's another commission. We have Women and Children. We have Education and Knowledge Sharing, you know, which is a commission. We have Health and Disability. We have Youth and Development. We have Media and Image Building. And so we are at a point where we want to take the onus on ourselves to make sure that we move forward. So everything we do is under this commission. But for example, media, which is what you're doing now, we believe that if we don't tell our story, we allow people to tell it the way they see it.
Exactly.
And so we've decided to take it upon ourselves to tell our story the right way. We want to write the book by ourselves. We want to, you know, do the documentaries and the news and tell our story. So that's how we are moving forward. And just to give you a quick definition of, you know, the African Union definition of a diaspora, is the exact definition still, you know, since 2005 when it was defined, is a peoples of African descent and heritage living outside the continent, irrespective of their citizenship, and who remain committed to contribute to the development of the continent and the building of the African Union. And so that's the definition. So far as that, irrespective of your citizenship or where you come from, and you feel committed to the continent, you are part of. That's why every one of us is an African. Now, in a summary of moving forward, we're saying that it's about love. Let's love ourselves to be able to love the community that we want to talk about. And so Africa have decided to love themselves and passing that love to an individual love. Love yourself, see yourself, heal yourself before we can talk about healing the community. And through that aspect of love, we'll be able to achieve what we want and move forward.
You know, I totally get you, but you know, I'm sure we want to move forward, but you will have challenges. You know, people who are pessimistic, they don't believe that Africa can actually wake up and the diaspora can actually wake up. is, do you think there is a possibility that Africa can actually wake up? Okay, we have this African Union 6th region, but how then do we, work with people in other, somebody will tell you, for instance, okay, in Africa you have the heads of states who are sitting in there, they're not helping, it's all about nationalism, or they don't even talk about one voice, one Africa. Now, how does the African Union and the diaspora come to bring that out, especially because it has to start with the heads of states. At the end of the day, it has to start with them. We can do all what we can do, but if we do not have the support of the heads of states, there is nothing we can't go anywhere.
Well, we're moving forward, and I know that my brother, my sister will speak to this that you've talked about. I've been privileged to be involved and engaged with the continental leadership from the OAU, Organization African Union. Since '97, at least, I got involved, more engaged in the process, which is almost 20 years now that I've been in this process. So I understand. People think that the leaders of the continent of Africa don't really care, or they don't know what they're doing, but they really do. When you sit down with them and talk with them, you know that the reason why they fought to get into that position was because they had planned that made people believe in them, to vote for them. And having said that, the challenge is that one thing you will know, that most of the leaders in the continent studied abroad, they studied outside.
Yes.
So there were things that they wanted to present and communicate. But it's a little bit of a challenge when you have 90+% who don't really know what you know, who don't see what you see. And so you have your cabinet, you have your leaders, you execute or share your vision. It takes a while for them to catch up. And so what we're doing is the leaders to be able to learn, which is part of education, to learn how to sell their vision and their plan to their leaders so that they can be in one sync to carry out this. So is Africa moving forward? Yes, Africa is moving forward. Who will believe that the economic, well, I use the word almost 8 out of 10 most growing economies in the world are from Africa. How did that happen? The diaspora. By reaching out to the diaspora, giving you a key case example, Rwanda. The president of Rwanda, President Kigali, decided to travel across the globe and seeking diasporans who are willing to come back home and support. And he said, tell me, even whatever, your T4, for example, in Canada,
yes.
Whatever you're paid, I'm ready to match as far as you produce the same result that you produce in Canada. And there were a lot of people. Today, you go see what's happening in Rwanda. It's an amazing story of a turnaround.
Yes.
Right? So it's possible. Nigeria have their diaspora, right? Just like every other country, we have Nigerian in diaspora called NIDO. Right? Some have it, for example, we also have Nigerian Canadian Association. So every country have come up with a plan to organize their diaspora and reach out to them. I know my brother will speak on the Ghanaian, which has a strong affinity, with the continent and all that. Every country is reaching out. So yes, there is a movement. It's not easy, but at least the fact that we have Agenda 2063, which our current chairperson, Madam Zuma,
yes.
Have done an amazing job in helping everybody to stay focused on this Agenda 2063, to understand where Africa is going next. And if you go and study that document, you won't have confusion. You won't be having question, what is happening, where are we going? And so that's what is happening right now. So showing you another example is recently there is a program called CISA, which has to deal with education platform for the continent.
Yes.
And there was a 10-year plan given on TEVET, which is technology program, training program for the continent, and especially for the young people and all that. And we have education program. Already we have Pan-African University showing that the continent came together and unified to establish a model system as a university platform for the continent, which has branches across the regions. So all I'm saying here is that yes, we're moving forward, and that's the message we want people to know, that Africa is moving forward. The diaspora is involved. If you go to the African Union headquarters, major percentage, I could almost say 70 to 80% of the leaders are people who were in the diaspora. They started in UK, in the US, in North America, all parts of the world, and they have gone back to support the movement and the process of that. That's why Africa is the next frontier. Everybody's hearing Africa in the news, and we will continue to be in the news. Why? Because we now have an agenda that is helping us to move forward.
And to add to what Mr. Kalu has just said, for example, Jamaica has a representative to the AU for the diasporas. So that's building a strong voice for the Jamaicans to be able to connect with the continent.
Now, we're talking about education, and I want to go back to you, Mr. Connie. Like, you know, when you go into education and you see the level of education in Africa and the level of education here, it's actually like, you know, it's not in the same level. You come from Africa, you come here, you have to do certain credits and all that, but you, like you were saying, you have people who are educated here and they've already studied Pan-Africanism, but the history does not teach all of this. Is this something that we're looking into? Is that what you mean? Is that any relevance to what you have gone in the history of educating?
Yes, somebody sang a song, an African-American young lady, about the miseducation of the African. And so when you talk about education, you have to talk about education in context, within the context of African continent, that is relevant to the African people, that will reawake the giant in them. But if you get education that is not about you, and therefore not about your continent, that education is not valuable. And some of the education we have used to rise to a certain level, if you watch the people who led revolts in Africa, it is their African upbringing, the passion for the motherland. Okay, and the street level intelligence, you may call it. And so if you refer to Barack Obama going to Harvard University, it is not about the Harvard University more than about growing up in south side of Chicago, where he learned on the ground that my people need to be redeemed, that I have to be that light. So Africa is moving forward in such a way that I am very hopeful that a change is going to come. People without a plan are going nowhere, but when we've put a plan in place, because every country have a plan. When Ghana became independent in 1957, we put in place 10-year development plan, and that's what we follow. China have a plan now where they are going. They believe in 50 years they will control half of the world, and they are pursuing it. So I love to work with people, but first they must have a plan. And once we have a plan in place, I will meet you there, because we all know where we're going. You have your GPS, meet me there. And so I am full of hope, and I don't have faith, but I have a dream, because faith is the one that makes people sit down. But dream is the one that makes people wake up every morning and chase their dream. So like Dr. Martin Luther King said, we have a dream that one day the mother that has been put to sleep will rise up to a higher level. And that dream is what drives most people who work in the non-profit sector. That if the change is going to come, it's got to come from the heart. And that's where NGOs come in, because we work with the heart. We don't make money.
That takes me back with education to the youth. You know, the youth are our driving force. They are our future. What has the network, the AU 6th region, have done when it comes to youth? Because we have to now go back to our children, our children's children, and teach them. So is there any collaboration with the young ones? Because they also know, they need to know what is going on.
Well, yes, there is a program going on in helping to empower and educate our young people. So we always call them the future of tomorrow. So currently what is happening, like this year, every year African Union comes up with a theme that is used to, that will guide us throughout the year. For example, this year is a year of human rights towards the rights of women. You know, starting from last year, which was women empowerment and development, to the year of human rights and the rights of women. And so the whole year has been, all the heads of state meeting, and all the conferences and consultation has been focused on that. And next coming year, 2017, is going to be completely focused on the youth development and empowerment and all that is about the youths. And so there is a plan and education program. And speaking about education, just like I said, we have a Pan-African University from the Education Commission, Science and Technology of the African Union.
Where is it located?
They have different regions across Africa. So like in Nigeria, there is a branch that helps with that. So every region within the 5 regions have this university that speaks of this Pan-African University. And so now we are working on the preschool to the high school. you know, establishing another model. Like my brother said, my brother Connie said, you know, it's about education that speaks to who we are. What has happened in the past is that we have allowed infiltration and alteration of our system of who we are, and we have been introduced to something that we are not too familiar, balancing it with our culture and our history and who we are. And so there was a challenge in the process, and now the continent is coming out with an education plan and development plan and training, vocational skill training plan, because what has happened in the past is that they give us the theory.
Yes.
You go to Africa, they learn a lot, they study, they know the theory, but the practical is not given to us. Giving you an example, come to the universities here. Most of our kids are not given the privilege of doing, for example, mechanical engineering, which is the honors or the foundation of everything that has to do, anything, aerodynamic, aerospace, anything has to do with the mechanics. But you go there, it's less than even 1% of Africans or people of African descent that are given the opportunity
The
to
infrastructure
learn
of every country is run by the term you just used, mechanics.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
if you don't have a proper infrastructure in Africa, because we don't have these colleges that will turn these graduates to do that kind of work.
Exactly.
So the system of lighting, air conditioning, all those things are not properly
So
run.
that will
Yes.
put Africa in not developing, even
Exactly.
though you have
Exactly.
people
Exactly.
who know,
Yes.
because the
Yes.
practicality of doing that
Yes.
job is not given to you, even
Yes.
though you study.
So when you give them, so they've learned all these things, and then you give them computer, for example. They don't know how it, you know, they've theoretically studied it. Put it apart, they are lost, right? So now they're going back to the techniques and the mechanics of it to know how to put it together, couple it, even though that most history shows that people of African descent has been behind the manufacturing aspect of everything.
And yet Africa
We
has
don't
the
get any
raw,
credit.
the
Exactly.
raw materials,
Everything.
has everything there, and we
Yes.
can dig our own. I mean, even
Yes.
in my country, you know, diamonds, you know, we have diamonds in there, but then all those things are taken elsewhere to get cut, to get shaped, to get this,
Exactly.
and it's not giving people jobs in there. So it comes now as a refined product, or now you only come for you to package it, not now to actually have the industry. So that kind of puts Africa back. Even you have, because you used to wonder, like, there's so many educated people there, people have studied so long, but how come it's still where we are? Is it because of the heads of state, you know, they become selfish, or they become about us, nationalism? It's not about the whole big issue. So it makes sense when you say the practicality of the work of the educated is not included.
So yeah, that's what is happening. So, so what we're doing now is identifying partners, especially on education, that are ready to you know, help us with that aspect of technical, vocational skill training and
yes.
skill transfer. We know what has happened in Africa is the aspect of brain drain, whereby a lot of opportunity we're giving people come to the West to study, and they also develop a plan to keep them instead of them going back.
Yes.
It give you opportunity. You know, you can actually get a job, but you can stay and all that, and make it, you know, more enticing to stay. But now the continent also developing plan to get back those brain drain to brain gain by saying, hey, we want you to come back and train and transfer those skills and help us to go back to being practical and being original and creating the foundation. And so the mechanical engineering and every other aspect of skill training is very important in helping us to move forward. So yes, on the education, we have a model school that we are working on in preschool to high school that will include the vocational technical training that will be in place right from you know, young age to help people to have to use their hands. And so theory including the practical, having everything seen there to get it done. And that's the next Africa that we are looking at, where our young people will be fully developed because the raw materials are there, everything is there. So by having those things and being able to use it ourselves and create things ourselves, you know, it will be great. So there is an education plan that will be launched in 2017 September from the African Union. Interesting enough, the concept has been developed by the diaspora, the 6th region. And so this 6th region put up a concept plan looking at what the Agenda 2063 said, and saw the 10-year plan, which is 2015 to 2025 plan under CISA, which is educational development. And so creating a curriculum that now we will use to develop the next generation moving forward. And so in 2017, September, there is a model school that's being built around the Lebu region in Ethiopia with one of our partners, Alabel, and also Ethiopian government, coming on board to help with that project. And so it's going to be a plan with the whole continent. This is going to be a model school just like the Pan-African University. Yes. And then this will help the continent in moving forward in training. And then there will be satellites of these model schools across the regions. And so the diaspora are the ones that are initiating this movement and say we are ready to go back home in training, in helping, in transferring the skills and making sure that the youths of tomorrow are not confused with what they're going. It's not about the theory they learn, but now they can use their hands and get something done to move forward. And what we're doing is that to bridge the gap between the skills, because we have a lot of people who are trained and good jobs and all that, and because they're comfortable, they forget to see the gap. And now the youths are crying, right? And saying, we've learned, but we're not getting, like here you finish, they say, where is Canadian experience?
Yes.
Right? And so we're trying to, African Union even have created a co-op and internship program that our youths, when they finish, they can go to the Continent Leadership African Union, and as youths, they can get opportunity through the, under the African Union Youth Chapter, and they have opportunity for a co-op program or internship program where they can send them from different parts of the African countries to learn or transfer or be part of what they've learned from any part of the world they are coming from. And so there is a plan in place. Like I said, the agenda is moving us forward. We're not there yet,
yes.
But we might not need to talk about everything, but yes. I'm just saying that we are moving forward, and watch us in the next few years. As the world knows, Africa is the next frontier, yes. And nothing is stopping us.
I wanted to go back on something that you talk about Africa's resource, because quite often Africans get caught up with the abundance of resource on the ground. The greatest resource for a people is the people, is human resource.
Yes.
And Africans keep looking at the resource on the ground and not the one above the ground, which is them. But we have about 350 million diasporans across the world.
Wow.
Okay, that's a huge resource. We are the greatest diasporans in human history. In other words, we are the greatest diverse people outside of our ancestral homeland. Now, this resource is gold, it's diamond, it's rubber, it's magnesium, it's all the things you can think of. So if we begin to put our human resource in order, then we can manage and actually sell the other resources that is under the ground profitably to look after ourselves. And that is the issue that we have. It's not more about what you have, because you have great countries in the world: North Korea, Malaysia, Indonesia, Israel, maybe United States, England, who may not have half of the resources that we have. But you look at the level of economic independence that they have, that we don't have. So it is about educating us as to what our responsibilities are in managing the resources that we have, so that we can create a better living conditions for our people. And that's the challenge for the Africans and the African diaspora in this decade.
So, but then look at the picture. The picture is still painted that, North America is still a place to go to. Still you have people huge, capsizing, and it's still happening today, traveling to North America, to different parts in Europe. And this is the future of our generations, of our children, who are actually dying on the way, coming to this picture, of which the same picture is the one we're saying that the people come here, they live here, and they can't go back. But then it's not that the life you're living is totally to a point where you actually want to excel. Like you say, some of the jobs, you become an engineer, you study, but you can't get a job. So it happens that you come back here and you find that, okay, I've studied here, I can work. I might as well go work in the factory. You end up just doing something that you come here as a pilot or as an engineer or anything, but you're not even doing what you were supposed to do. How do we stop that kind of movement and not paint the picture of the of overseas the way it is?
Well, you know, one of the most interesting, and I once again add a credit to the chairperson of the African Union, Madam Zuma, who, as a woman, as a mother, you know, believes that when you educate a woman, a mother, you educate the whole nation, because mothers are the womb of a land. And so for the past 2 years, there's been a lot of the aspect of educating women and mothers across the continent, and especially on the aspect of, you know, their rights of being trained and being educated, and also other aspect of that. And that has led into the movement we are seeing of the young people waking up, because the mothers now know what need to do, how to help and support the young people, their children.
Yes.
And so that has led to the cry of saying, hey, come and help us, you know, to develop the right way that we are supposed to. And so, yes, all those things that we are talking about, we are in a good place right now. And I think that's why we're having this conversation. We can't stop educating our people. We can't stop, you know, dialoguing. We can't stop, you know, consulting. And that's why we're having consultations around the globe, you know, having conversations. And I tell you, the African Union is doing very well from the different commissions that we operate. And currently with this Pan-African network, what we're asking for, that every organization that is of African descent make contact with us. We don't want you to, we're not reinventing the wheel.
Yes.
Stay in the course of what you're doing.
Okay.
Be the change agent that you are, whether
Yes.
it's on women, on history, on anything, because the continent want to know where you are and where you, so that we can draw from you, because we don't have the full scale database. And
Yes.
so by knowing who is doing what and where they are, and combining that, like my brother said, talking about plan. If you don't have a plan, you don't know where you're going. So we need to have a collective plan, that we support one another. Some do fundraisings and do programs that is conflicting with one another.
Exactly.
So when we plan our calendar and our agenda collectively, we support ourselves collectively. So for example, the diplomatic group in Canada, there are over 33 African diplomatic offices in Canada. They now have a group and a union. They have one voice. They have a dean that represents
Yes.
all the African diplomatic group. In Canada now, we have, of people of African descent, we have about 14 elected officials. From
okay.
the federal to the provincial. Now they have a union. They are working together. And the same thing that we are saying from the civil society, the organizations that deal with community development and international development. We want you to come together, work with us, whether you are any organization, a major or small organization that operate under the commissions that we mentioned. We want you to come together, that we can have a unified plan and support one another to get the goal and development that we are seeking for the continent. And so that's where we are, and that's where we are establishing and strengthening this Pan-African network across the nation and across the globe. But of course, we're here in Canada, and I'm very focused on what's happening here in Canada. And that's why our brother from all the way from the West, Edmonton, it's here lending his support. We have Ontario Black History, just in line with what he's doing, you know, as well, you know, coming, you know, working to come together. We have our sister Ekua Cooper from you know, Nova Scotia, heading the aspect of our history or culture there. You know, doing all that to educate people about the true history. You know, when people talk about Black history,
Yes.
I always say that, you know, it's great, but there is no country called Black. There's no
That's
continent called Black.
That is true.
And so the true history is African history,
Yes.
right? Yes, the Black may be the people, but that's
Yes.
not a nation.
Yes.
You know, we have, you know, what we call Asia Month. Asia is a continent,
Yes.
right? And so when you say Black History Month,
Who are you talking,
Who are you
talking
talking
about? But when you say African, you
Africa,
know
it's
exactly
to talk about the
who you-
diversity and
Yeah.
all that. So yes, it's true. We have Black history. That's who we are, and we are moving forward to say yes, all of us as Blacks, all of us as Africans. It's about talking about our history from the origin of it, from the kings and queens and the origin, right, to what happened with slavery of Blacks being, you know, used as slaves and all that, which is what affected. And we talk about that history, how Blacks were taken away
Yes.
and what happened to us. And we went through that process, but now we are alive. We survived it, right? And now the Black history of what we went through is connecting back to its root, which is Africa. And so the Black history is important as the African history is important. And what we're doing now is to join it together and say we have one history.
Not Black history.
Not just the Black
not
history,
just Black history,
but African history.
Because Black history now you're starting to separate. You know,
exactly.
The
diverse community and culture of who we are.
Yes.
I think that Black history term was used to actually talk about the transatlantic slave trade.
Yes.
In other words, the African diaspora before the Africans like myself from the mainland came here.
Yes.
So in fact, the person who developed the idea of Black History Month did mention that when Black history became part of mainstream history, there will be no more need for Black History Month.
Thank you.
So as a matter of fact, we have also developed a new term by Dr. Marimba Ani, an African-American historian, who said it will be called Ma'afa. So in fact, in Edmonton, for the past 4 years, my organization has been celebrating Ma'afa instead of Black History Month. Ma'afa is a Swahili term that talks about tragic event, just as Jewish people have used Holocaust. So another word for tragic event is Ma'afa. So Ma'afa will be celebrated every year from now till the end of the world, because that is tragic event in human history.
The slavery and the slave trade, that's what the Africans
so now
experience.
it will be called, in America even now, we call it Ma'afa. So it's no more Black History, but Black History Month was a cry out to be included in school curriculum. So, you know, Black is beautiful, say it loud and black and proud. That was all a way to get in. But once you get in, you won't be, you don't have to say I'm black and proud because you're already proud now.
Exactly.
Yes.
So this is where we are now. Ma'afa is the new term for Black History Month in February. And it speaks to what he just said, that we will not be black, we will be, you know, Africans, and of course, Ma'afa will be some aspect of our history.
I want to, I want us to take a break shortly, and then when we come back, I want for you to actually tell us how now, as a Secretary General, do you incorporate all these, all the diplomats you were talking about, all the commissions you're talking, so that people can be really clear on how they have to move. What are the steps to go into connections, to coming into place, so that I'm sure that there are people out there who have places, who have, you know, organizations, but then it's like, how do we take the step? What am I supposed to do? Who do I call? Who do I see? You know, it might seem like you're very far off and they don't know exactly which is the best way to go in. So in a few minutes, we will come back and you can tell us exactly what does that mean and how do the people move from there. Is that okay? Thank you.
Multivitamins are a very important factor in maintaining good health both in men and women. Greenish Natural Health offers a balanced formulation fulfilling all of the daily requirements for essential nutrients like vitamins and minerals. If you are a healthy man or a woman, this is a time to make Greenish multivitamins a part of your daily routine to stay healthy. Greenish multivitamin and supplements are certified vegetarian, halal, and kosher. They are also gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, and non-GMO. Ask for Greenish products at your nearest pharmacy.
Welcome back. This is Terry P on Hot Reflections. As you know, we went on a break and we were talking about the strengthening the Pan-Africanism network in Canada and the diaspora. So we are here today with the three amazing speakers, Mr. Kalu, Miss Barbara, and Mr. Connie, and we're going to continue in our conversation. And what I was asking Barbara earlier is that, you know, we have different networks around in Canada and around everywhere, and people want to know, how do we connect? How do we connect with you? How do we connect? How do they come in and, you know, give the information to you, and how do we get all these organizations together?
Thank you. First of all, we have a website that people can go to.
Okay.
People can get information on. Our website is www.au6rc.com, and they can call into our office at 647-785-7959
Okay.
with whatever question they have, whatever information they desire to require, and we can speak to that.
So on that, how many other organizations have already contacted you so far? Like, do we have any organizations that have seen alliance with AU in Canada so far?
I can speak to that.
Yeah.
Yes, we do have a lot of organizations that has been in contact. Like I said, this is about strengthening the Pan-African network, because over the years, for the past at least 7 years, the 6th region has been doing what it can to connect, because networking is the best way to move forward.
Yes.
So the 6th region has been doing a lot to connect all the various organizations that I think since 2011 we've been connected with Mr. Kone, who is doing an amazing job in this African library in Edmonton, and so like Ontario Black History Society as well, that's doing an amazing job. Actually, they're having their brunch in January 29th.
Am I invited?
Yes. You are invited. So they're having the brunch at around 29th of January in preparation for the Black History Month, and we know it's always amazing. Last year they have over 600 people, and they're looking forward this year as well. And so you can actually go online, contact Ontario Black History Society, get your ticket and be part of this great network. There you find almost all of us will be there, lending our support to this collective process of our Pan-African network that we're working on. And so organizations like that, like MATE FCC, is another organization that is doing an amazing job in the continent, international development. There are a lot of organizations, and we have big organizations that have networks, like Global Kingdom, for example. It's a ministry that has a lot of organizations under it and have branches across the globe. And so we have, through our media channel, which is the Global Africa Media, which is the magazine that connects the continent with its diaspora. This is actually in partnership with the African Union, where you can read stories about what the continent is doing, what our chairperson is saying, and the heads of states are saying, and what the diasporans are saying. For example, in the face of this last edition, we have Ahmed Hussein, who is the first Somalian Canadian parliamentarian. Who is a lawyer by profession, has done an amazing job within the Somalia community and the African community, and it's a success story that most people in the world don't know about. How did he get there? And last time we have Selena Cervantes, who also is a member of Parliament from Whitby, who is actually the parliamentary secretary to the Prime Minister, and doing an amazing job, right? And so, we're using this to connect, for people to know what's going on, like organizations, like our brother here and other organizations and what they're doing around the world. We have countries, we have CUSO International, for example, as part of our partner organizations. It's doing an amazing job. Sometimes people talk about they want to volunteer, and they don't know where to start, what to do. They don't have money, but they can contact CUSO, who is that's been there for over 50 years, sending people different parts of the world, they can guide you through the process, help you with your payment of volunteering and health insurance and all this stuff. But so we have this partner organization like OCIC, Ontario Council International, that is there. We have Council of Canadian International Council, CIC. So we have all these international development organizations that are now coming together, being part of this movement. We have also private sectors like Atlas Cargo, for example.
I was going to ask that the shipping, because I know there is a very movement about doing the, can you explain that more?
Exactly. So one of the things that are happening as part of the benefits that the network is creating to help is that Atlas Cargo is one part of the global shipping network. They have a global shipping partnership. And so Atlas Cargo, in partnership with their network, because Mr. Ken Singh is the president of Atlas Cargo, and is willing to help do training on the area of freight forwarding and logistics within the continent. Because some of the things that is the challenge is the fact that the continent is to adopt a standard global process of freight and forwarding. For example,
Yes.
if I ship something that is for non-for-profit, they should be able to respect the fact that it's a non-for-profit, it's not a business.
Yes.
And so if you're not to charge a non-for-profit products that are coming into the country that will help the people, there should be that exemption that the people will benefit. And so by giving the training from the different nations, they will be able to get a certificate from us, and which will be respected by individual country, and with that will make their shipping process very easy. And so these are some of the benefits that people will get as being part of that network. And also when people talk about skills and they don't know where to connect or how they can use their skill by contacting us. For example, there's so many countries in Africa that are looking for professional skills on different aspects. They don't know where to go to.
Because, you're right, because in Africa, we have what you call expatriates.
Exactly.
You have people who are
Yeah.
coming from different countries,
Yes.
coming to teach, coming to do this. But if you have teachers who are in the African diaspora, why don't you take them and give them the same? Because the people, the expatriates, they earn more, they live in bigger houses, they drive the best cars and all of that. And this is something that can be given to the African diaspora.
So that's what we're doing, and so this network is very important. What we're asking everybody to do is we don't know if you don't tell us, right? And so we wanted to contact our office, 647-785-7959 or 647-985-0293. I believe that those they will see it on the screen as
Yes.
we move forward. au6rc.com. We also have a Facebook account, which is Africa Unity 6th Region Canada, and they can inbox us there, send us information. So whether it's an individual that have skills, they can contact us, or an organization, whether in the private sector or as a civil society or community development, contact us, because they have a network within their organization that we want to tap into. So what is the benefit? Part of the benefit is that the African Union want to know who you are and what you're doing. By being part of the network, when we need areas of support on your skill or as an organization, because we have organizations that do different training or international development. For example, as partnership you were talking about, we have Ryerson University that has come as partner in international development, especially on the aspect of mechanical engineering.
Okay.
And now we've been able to have some MOUs from Somalia, Ghana, and some other countries. Now we're working on a unified continental memorandum of understanding with Ryerson University to be able to do more of this training. And so
would that training then get somebody from Africa, some youth from Africa, bringing them here to train them? You're saying there's that kind of partnership?
Yes.
So the cost and all of that will
be taken care of in doing that, yes. So whether...
this is great information that has to be...
Exactly. And part of what we're doing also is exchange programs. We're working with some of the universities, to have exchange programs in different fields that students from Africa will come, or professors will go to Africa, and some of them will come from Africa to be able to learn best practices, because what we're talking about is best practices.
Ethics.
Exactly. Because in the past, that we have these issues of, in Africa you have American school, you have French school, you have Turkish school, you have British school,
yes.
And we keep breaking up ourselves, and these kids are confused. Who are they? Are they British or are they American, or and they're in the continent. And so that's where we're like, when the Canadian system, we're talking about Canadian school, we say, well, we need to talk about best practices. Are there best practices we can learn from Canada, from the US, and help support the continent with their education system to be themselves? That you can talk about African school system.
Exactly.
With our history and our culture and our style of learning.
Yes.
With respect to the values of who we are. And that's the things that we are trying to make people, help people understand. Don't impose things on us,
yes.
Because things are changing. The diaspora is involved. We all studied abroad, and we studied here. So know that we know.
We know the rights.
We know the rights. We know the story. We know
stories.
everything.
Yes.
And now the continental leadership are listening to us. They are consulting us. They are calling on us to say, hey, sometimes we have companies that come from the West. And they go to Africa and they rip them off and they tell our stories.
A lot of companies have done that. They take a part of the country, they develop, and then they don't even, they actually bring their own people. A lot of countries have done that. They bring their own people to come and do the construction, to work. And then they don't even take out the money out of the country. And this has happened in a lot of countries. And I think now what bothers me is that is the heads of states, and they know this is going on. So why don't we stop it?
I wouldn't blame the heads of state so much, and the reason is the fact that the diaspora have not really engaged the heads of state, because what would they know? Where would they go? That's why having the Pan-African Network, they now have a place they can go to. And so it's been on individual efforts. The individual country heads of states have been reaching out to their individual country diaspora to try to, and guess what? It's a challenge because there are people who have different views, political views, economic views. So if a president that they don't like, they won't engage as much as they're supposed to. And so you have a challenge of the diaspora really coming in and doing what they need to be done on individual country basis. So the good thing about the 6th region is that we are not politically motivated. We are not. We are after the good of the country. And it doesn't matter what country it is. We are coming as a collective. Whether I'm born in Canada, I'm born in the Caribbean.
Where we are right now.
It doesn't matter, So I'm coming as a 6th region. And if it's Ghana that is open for us to give the support, we're not looking at that. We are looking at the fact they are open to work with us to give the support that we need based on our skills from the private sector to the civil society. And that's what brings the growth that we're looking for. And that cuts across these political issues and big green and all the issues that we have. So yes, it's possible that the challenge has been there's not been a structure or plan to reach out to the right people that will be able to help, and that's what we're doing right now.
But now when we come to business, how do we now incorporate business? Because you have people who have business ideas, business, dreams, and they would like to actually, even from here in the diaspora, but then you start up a business, you register a business here, and it's going nowhere. But the same business can be the same business that can prosper, in Africa, in the Caribbean, it can prosper anywhere. So would you say that if I have a good business plan, I can come to the 6th region, diaspora, and say, this is my vision. This is what I want to do. I'm not moving forward here. I'm doing this. I'm not getting, the market is not conducive for me. But I think my market will be conducive for me in this area. Would it be something that, can be looked into and given an opportunity?
We're already doing that, and I travel quite often to the continent, and part of what we do is we do quite an often business presentation, right? And which on different aspects, and I think my brother can speak to that, because when you talk about history and education, is on the fact that people need to understand the business culture of where they're going. And history plays a major role. We've had a lot of people, currently there's a lot of issues with organizations that go there and they make a mess because they didn't respect the culture and the values of the place, and sometimes the country said, we don't want you anymore. And that affects whatever project that you're doing. You hear even people going for peacekeeping and they're raping the women and doing certain things, and they're thinking, nobody cares. No, but the diaspora is calling them,
that's not true.
To point, right? We are making sure that everything is done. And so, for example, with what other organizations are doing is we're bringing them on the table to help with the educational process of understanding the business culture and climate, whether here in Canada and also in the continent. So we also provide opportunities for business in a very broad way. Now, with the AU that makes decision on policy on how things are done in the continent, we help to educate people on that aspect and what is the best way. For example, give you an example for Ethiopia. Ethiopia have what they call diaspora bond, right? That produces or provides opportunity for diasporans to invest in business opportunities that the government is providing. Now giving them opportunity to make money as diasporans, also at the same time helping to develop the economy of the country. So even this year alone, I think over 40 million was raised by diasporans from Ethiopian community alone for their dam project that they are doing in Ethiopia. The same thing, some of the other countries have the same kind of opportunities when it comes to business. So what we're saying in effect is that yes, there are business opportunities. We now help people on different, whether in education, there is a business opportunity. For example, there is, in Africa, there is a lack of over 3 million teachers in the continent.
And how
3
many
million.
teachers are being misplaced here?
Exactly, right? 3 million. So we setting up program, even educational training, teachers training program, whether online or in a physical format, in the continent, to help train people, which is an industry, a huge industry on its own. Diasporans can get a job as being teachers. In the past, it used to be like that. We have a lot of diaspora from Jamaica, from different places. They were in Africa teaching English, teaching different, subjects. And so these opportunities are still there. A lot of business opportunities in infrastructure, in education, in women development, in youth development, in different aspects. Of business opportunities that are there, economic development. What we are asking people is, whenever you have a plan and you talk about business, it must have a sustainable approach to it. Because you come in to talk about business or plan or project, and if it doesn't have a sustainable approach, it dies off just like that. And we don't want that anymore in Africa.
But look at his project. His project is on history. It's something that will not go away. It's something that is always there. Is it something that you look into and say, okay, he has the Vial Now project, right?
Yes.
And in that project, you're developing, you're teaching on the history. I know you go to schools, you teach, as a professor, you teach to students and all of that. Does this mean that there is a real way of strengthening the network for you?
Basically, it's a training. And when you say training, a person who is trained can almost do everything right from that training base. When the early leaders of Africa were trained that we are taking our continent back, most of the things they did was right. So if you talk about economics, there is the history of economics. You talk about finance, there's the history of finance. You talk about marketing. So
and speaking to that as well, when you talk about the importance of culture and system and history, which I find it interesting, especially in Africa, when they say that the leaders are corrupt. I know there is a level of corruption, but interesting thing is corruption is all over the world, right? It's the same thing all over the place. But here's the difference. In Africa, for example, I'll give you an example based on some business cultures that I had to learn. Just like running an organization here, when you have a budget or you receive money, they expect you to use that money based on what is said, right?
Yes.
If you return the money, right, your budget will be cut next time because based on what you said you would do, you won't use that money
exactly,
right? So when, for example, in Nigeria, they have a central government system where every state is independent of its own to do business, right? But of course, reports to the federal government. So federal government gets money, send it to the various states based on budgets of, infrastructure, education, whatever that they said. And so you're expected to use that money. Right? So here's the problem that we have sometimes, and people say corruption. Now you go to a government and you say to them, I have this great technology that can help on building X, Y, Z or infrastructure. And they say to you, okay, tell us how much. So the person have done their study on how much normally it will cost, right? Based on what is done before. They did their research. So let's say something that will cost 1 million, right? And the country budget, which maybe they didn't discuss, they didn't find out. They say the country budget is 5 million. And they come and say, well, this thing you're doing will cost 1 million. We can do it at 1 million. Say, fine. But our budget is 5 million, right? You're helping us. But the point is, they said, okay, we have to use up our budget because if we don't use it, right, we're not going to get it back next year.
Yes.
Or next time.
Yes.
So we want to put that money into other areas that doesn't have enough funding. So we welcome your view. And now the challenge is that this person comes, present his proposal, we agree, we say, well, okay, on paper, right, is this 5 million, not 1 million.
Wow.
And you say, what, but it's 1 million, but our budget is 5 million, right?
Yeah.
And so by not understanding the mechanics or the system or what's going on, right? in saying, okay, I can come and say, well, what's your budget? Your budget is 5 million. Okay, we can work with this budget that you have. This is what we're going to do. You may make more money, but now use that money to help develop other sectors. For example, if it's infrastructure, then you can help with schools and hospitals and other things, which other organizations or companies are doing now. When they understand the system, they say, okay, we will come with your energy and provide a better energy. The money we will make, part of what we will give back to the communities, we will build schools and hospitals and all that as part of our own contribution to the process. And so you need to understand the culture of a place before you label them based on how things work. And it's all over the place. And so there are so many mechanics that people need to understand, or different systems of different areas that has to do with their culture and history that people need to understand. Are there corruption? Yes, there are corruption. But the thing is that you need to also learn to ask people questions. Here's the thing. When we come together to do a project, there is individual personal interest, which are not most times discussed. And so when people interests are addressed, the community interest is protected. Because when somebody's personal interest is not talked about, and you only talk about the community interest, a hungry person cannot feed the people. If you call me to feed a community and I'm hungry, I can faint feeding people. And so by making sure that I'm okay, I'm filled up, and you give me food, I'm not going to be eating from the tray that I'm feeding people. So making sure that the person you are calling to serve is okay. And these are areas that we don't talk about. You know, when you find people who have done well for themselves, business-wise, and all that are really successful and done well, when you put them to manage a community fund, they do it very well.
So you don't put a hungry person in a high position, because a hungry person is going to eat. Is going to eat.
And that's why, if you watch in Africa, most times when the real success story of the leaders come is when they're about to leave office. Because they've eaten enough or taken care of themselves. They're satisfied. They now think about legacy they want to leave.
So most of the politicians are coming in because they're hungry for the success and for the look and for the image of what it will give. So now maybe the diaspora would be probably the perfect place to actually start having political, affiliation as well.
Yeah, it is there. And so once again, it comes back to education in different aspects, in different ways that you look at it. There's so many philosophy that will help us to understand one another, understand how it's done. When somebody is, and that's why we're trying to encourage leaders in Africa, help provide the basic needs of the people. When there are good roads, when there is energy, when there is a good health system, when there is a good health system, you won't have a problem.
It is so true.
And so we're saying is, let's work together, provide the basic needs of the people.
It's true.
If you watch some countries that even if the leader is taking a lot of money or whatever, but the people are happy and nobody complains. Nobody complains. Talks about anything. So we're not saying we don't encourage you taking money. And it's interesting again, talking about the Western world and talking about African countries corrupt. When most of the money are put there, why they don't take it back to the country? Why are they using it for themselves? Why are they keeping the money? Even when a new government comes back and said, oh, we find out that the former president of so took money and put in your country, can you give us back? We're having headache for them to return the money. And they're calling the country corrupt. So who is more corrupt? And so we need to be, in the position of really a proper dialogue and defining the words that we use. What does it mean to the other? And so, what we're saying is, let's work together, because understanding that supporting Africa in the reality of it is supporting ourselves. Let the world not forget that the major part of infrastructure, Africa is not even, it's not scratched. No matter what they think they've done in the past, or what anybody have done in the past, in filling the reports, Africa is still very rich. In the past, we are not even contributing to 1% of the economic development or growth. So we are still, we're just starting up. We're just fresh. And so if we continue to manage us and put things in place,
we can reclaim it back.
And let them be careful, because that's why I say we are from Africa. And so supporting Africa in the right sense is supporting yourself. Don't make us push back and say, hey, let's readdress issues. right? There are certain things that are done in different countries that they said, oh, we're putting sanction on you because you did this. But the fact is that there were things that people didn't know. There were documents. There are agreements that were done, right? I can give you some example, like either in South Africa or even in Zimbabwe.
I was going to say, like Robert
Right?
Mugabe has been there for, for since 1980, and it's with the propaganda and everything, and even Mama Gaddafi, who was just, passed away, they were the last Pan-Africanism members. And in their vision was to actually unite and actually help the people of those people. But then if they take everything and silence you and kill you, then how is it then that, we're going to bring up the people? And then also at the same time, you make it like the education, people still don't know the real reason why it happened. You don't know the real reason why he's still sitting there.
Yes.
Propaganda will tell you something
they don't
else.
have the
Just
history.
like Africa, most people in Africa don't know exactly what's going on in Africa. And how do we, strengthen? This is when we come here, like we're strengthening these networks so that we can actually educate.
Yeah, that's why overall we are saying our message is that it is time to really come together as one people, understand that there is nothing that we are taking away from anybody. We are not reinventing the wheel, but to have a proper plan and structure, just as our leaders, our motherland, have put a plan in place as a continent with Agenda 2063 to give us a headway, a plan moving forward. And we want to work with them with those plans and know that we are in line with the plan that has been put in place to help the continent. And so overall, we're not into whatever the problem, the challenges in the past, it's in the past. We are here now. There is a plan in place. Let's work with that plan and let people think before they make their judgment when it comes to country or the continent or individuals, right? We are saying even when it comes to elections and all that, let people properly do research. Facts are still important, of who they try to put in place. Like I said, a hungry person cannot really feed other people. And so when you're bringing somebody and their background shows that there are still issues and whatever, when somebody has not been in a place where they see and manage a large amount of money, you are tempting them to do something that they've never done before. Human beings have the capacity to be good or to be bad based on the environment they find themselves. And so, we need to check and think about all those things and what kind of environment and culture are we setting up around our leaders, right? Who are you allowing to manage to what degree? And I think that will help us as we criticize ourselves.
So now, what I want to go back is, let's say for instance in Jamaica, you have people here who actually send money to Jamaica, to build and develop Jamaica in that. Are we saying that that vision, they have to leave it and then go to Africa? Or are we saying that we have to build where we are? Is that what we're saying? Are we leaving to go to Africa? Or are we also developing Jamaica? Are we developing where we already are? Or this 6th region is our home now? Is this where we're developing who we are in this place as a country, within a country?
Exactly. We're developing where we are as a country within a country. And the 6th region is unifying, is having that recognition that you belong to the continent. Your roots is of Africa. Your roots is the continent. Having an identity. Just like we say the people from China or wherever, they say we belong to Asia.
Yes.
So having that identity that you can feel that you belong somewhere. And having that one voice.
Yes.
So for example, doing humanitarian work, there's hospitals and different places in Jamaica that we go to do things in Jamaica. It's still the diaspora.
Wow.
There are people from Jamaica, there are people from Africa that's in Jamaica doing a lot of things. There are people from Jamaica that's going to the continent doing a lot of things, but having that one voice and that unity to say we can work together as a team. For example, there's a doctor that is part of our organization that is building clinics in Ghana.
In Ghana.
Right, and is part of AU. And we're not saying that all the Ghanaians to support that, but we're saying collectively, the diaspora to support in this initiative to make it happen. The same thing if there's one building in Nigeria. Collectively, we come together with one spirit, one voice to make it happen. So it's unifying the diaspora wherever you are, wherever you want to you feel fit to work, to do what you're doing. We are with you. We are supporting you in that.
And I want to add to that as well, that when we talk about the 6th region, just for people to understand that we're not just talking about just the continent, because we're talking about the full development of people of African descent. And so that includes the diaspora, that includes the Caribbean countries, that includes Cuba, that includes the United North America. So we're not talking about just the continent.
No.
We are saying that we are Africans, and no matter where we are,
Yes.
it's up to us to develop ourselves. And
Yes.
so even here we have
need to be
issues
clear,
with
yes.
our youths. We have challenges with our youths
Yes.
in the prison. We have
Yes.
youths problem in every aspect, joblessness and all that. These are things that we are addressing. Right?
Culture shock.
Exactly.
Culture, all of that.
You know, and so there are a lot of things in the education process that we're doing. We have a lot of issues, like part of NHED. NHED is an organization by one of our partner organizations, Youth Initiative, led by Fana McConnell. NHED takes the young generation, right, that has never been to the continent. For example, people who come find their route from Ethiopia, for example, and they're the 1st or 2nd generation. Now, when you talk about even the remittance, and I think that's what the African Union is seeing to bring change, because the people who still feel the affinity of remittance and money and all that are the older generation, who either born there, grew up there, they understand the needs. The next generation that are born here, they don't really understand what you're talking about.
Yes.
They don't see those pain and issues as compared to their fathers and grandparents who came from there.
Exactly.
Right? So the kind of remittance they're doing is different from
Service.
the remittance that their forefathers and grandfathers are doing. Right? And so they might not do remittance through money. They can do remittance through technology and skills that they have. They can do remittance through volunteerism of going back and skill transfer. And so, for example, NHED is moving that next generation that nobody's really talking about, and now identifying a new level of remittance that is not just on the physical cash, but now having these young people to go back and see for themselves what their parents and grandparents are talking about. Having the freedom by themselves, not being guided by their parents or grandparents, because when parents and grandparents go home, they go to their families.
Yes.
And these young people don't have the opportunity to learn the community
and the
itself.
language.
And the language.
Yes.
And they are not connected. And so
Yes.
when they do it by themselves and go and volunteer by different organizations in
Yes.
different countries, it could be in the Caribbean, it could be in Africa, they learn for themselves, they see the needs themselves, and they are engaged by themselves.
And that's
And
the only thing
empowered.
that we don't get. Our African Canadians or African Americans who are actually going without much restriction or without
Exactly.
knowing anywhere. But you have missionaries, you have other corps, like, other organizations that are not African that are going to Africa doing things like that, but not our very own people.
Yes.
So which is
Giving you
very
example
interesting.
on the peace and security aspect that we talk about, we have our ex-officers, that are retired, who are doing, who have served, let's say, the Ontario Police, for example,
Yes.
Toronto Police, or OPP or whatever, who have experience in different levels that can go back. For example, there is something called community policing that we experience here
Yes.
that is not common in Africa
Yes.
or even in the Caribbean.
Yes.
In some places in Africa or in the Caribbean,
Botswana, they have it.
police is like an enemy. Police come to your house, there is a crime, there is a
There's a
problem,
crime,
but police can actually be your friend.
Yes.
Right? A policeman can actually know you, come to your house and drink
Yes,
tea, come to your
yes.
community and drink tea or whatever, and get to know you, and that even a report comes, because we have accusations that are not right. But when a police is in the community and know who is who and what is happening or
Things
whatever,
can be
somebody
rectified.
can be accused wrongly, and you say, well, I know this person.
Yes.
right? And and so it shortens the challenges that we have. And so we are trying to also tell our community, our leaders, to say that's part of what the 6th region is willing to do.
Wow.
We have somebody, retired Ojo Tewobade, who has served the police, Toronto Police, for over 35 years, who has been engaging, looking for opportunity to train the next generation of police, because he was more involved in community policing. And what he's trying to do is to help the academy, because that's where you get them, understanding what community policing is. And so it become part of the curriculum of training what we call community policing that helps in the overall community security that is required. And police is not meant to be an enemy, but part, because he lives in the community.
Yes,
he's part of the community.
Part of the community.
Right?
So there's
He's
no
to
profiling,
serve.
there's no, segregation.
He's called to serve, not to, impose, a bully or whatever. No. And so just about part of that education that we are talking about. This whole process is to say it doesn't matter what your skills are, it doesn't matter what you're doing. We welcome you. We want to work together. Join us if you have questions. Let people think about solutions and not so much a problem. That's what we want.
Exactly. That's why I like the movement today and what we're talking about. We put away all the negativity that we're not going to talk about. We know the problems are there. We know the issues that have challenged us. But why now we want to move forward? We want to strengthen the networks. So these little steps, they may seem as if they're small little steps, connecting and doing these things, but I think in the bigger picture, they can actually build a movement that is really huge. Like what he was saying, that, I remember when I was dreaming, I used to dream to go to Jamaica. I still want to go to Jamaica. I still haven't gone. So it's the reconnection. It's like we know we come for each other. So we did, like you were saying, Mr. Connie, that we are actually reconnecting. We come from Africa to come here, and we connect with them. Now we see each other. First time I came to Canada, and I used to watch, other African American or African Canadians, and I see the women. I thought they were all, had hair that is long like that. And until I went into a salon, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this girl. She has the same hair as mine, and she's from Jamaica. I had to go ask her to touch her. I'm like, but your hair is like my hair. How is that possible? Because in separation, we think that you are different from us. When we are in Africa, we think that the Caribbeans, everybody is not the same. Only when I felt the hair that I said, wow, we are actually one people. We are all the same. We are reconnecting. Is there anything, sir, you would like to mention?
At this time, I guess we've done pretty well. We've covered a lot of grounds, and these baby steps will go hopefully a long way in uniting the people that we seem to be targeting. We have to remind ourselves that a house is not a home, and we're trying to connect to our home. And where we are, you have a house here, but it's not my home. So when somebody say, I'm going home, it means you're going back to Africa. So spiritually, emotionally, wherever you are, connect to the mother, because since the umbilical cord was cut, you never went back.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That is really profound. And for you, Miss, is there anything that you could say before we just wrap up our conversation?
Well, just like you say, it's we're taking steps. It's like building a house, and brick by brick by brick. You lay the foundation. The foundation is already laid from history. Now we're building, and we're taking bricks, different organization, different people from the diaspora to build this house and to make it a home to the continent.
To the continent. And identity, you mentioned that.
Having an identity. So what I would say for the launch in May, that will be a very, very great event, getting people from the different parts of the continent to leadership, and the different Caribbean islands, South America, Latin America, to come together on that day to share and strengthen the Pan-African network
That is
as
really
one people with one voice.
with one voice. Because when I first saw a Cuban and there was a black person, I didn't understand, like, how is that possible? Because the history and the education in Africa is not taught this way. It's not taught this way. It stops about what happened from the time of slavery. It doesn't educate you, like, where did they go, what happened. It just stops at, it just teaches you who came and what did they do, but who left. So it was a real big disconnection in education. So as we start to see each other, we're like, oh no, we're actually one people, one voice, one Africa. That's interesting. Mr. Kalu?
Well, once again, thank you so very much for this great opportunity to share the next step of the continent. And let's all remember that we are all Africans. Africa is diverse. You can see, it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. If you think you're Asian, go to Africa, you see people that look like you. If you think you are an Arab or Middle Eastern, go there, you see people that look like you. If you think you're a black African, African American, or whoever from Caribbean, go, you see people that look like you. It doesn't matter what you think. We are one global African family where the humanity is one. There's one human being. There's no different human being. We are one people. We have one blood, red, that is flowing in each and every one of us. That shows that we come from the same root, the same family. And so let's think about that supporting the continent of Africa is supporting yourself. It doesn't matter where you're connected. And let's build together as a people. So we are asking people to call the office. Once again, the telephone number is 647-985-0293 or 647-785-7959. Call the office and let us know who you are, what you're doing. Let's connect you to the network so that when the needs come, we know where to tap into.
Yes.
And so we also have a website, www.au6rc.com. Please go there. You see a lot of information. You see all the countries, how they are there connected. You can find out what they're doing and who they are. And send us an email, inboxes. We have our Facebook account, Africa Unity 6 Region Canada. It's on Facebook as well. You connect us. We have the magazine, and we are free. When people ask, we ask them to come on board. Send us an article based on what you're doing. We want to know what you're doing. We want to tell your story. Contact us. Go to globalafricamedia.com. Globalafricamedia.com. The magazine is there. We want people to, see it, be part of it, and tell your story so that the rest of the world can know. The continent want to know who we are, what you're doing, and we want them to know who we are and what we're doing. And so, once again, it's about working together, building together as a global Africa family, and achieving one unified, and that will make the world a better place. Let's not keep marginalizing people because of whatever challenges that they have, but knowing that if I'm supporting them, I'm supporting myself, and we have a better community together. So once again, we appreciate the opportunity that we have through TAC TV to present our views and be able to let the world know that Africa is the next frontier. Join us in this movement. We hear you, we hear your cry, we understand, but please contact us. Let's discuss those. Let's have consultation. Let's have dialogue. Let's have conversation. Let's have a think tank and discuss where next that we're going. Thank you, and God bless. God bless Africa and its diaspora.
Thank you, viewers. You've had it. Thank you so much for coming. It is my pleasure to have had you here and talking about this very sensitive topic. One thing I want to take from what all you've said was about love. At the end of the day, it's about love. It's about coming together and bringing each other. You say, love one another. That's the when you love the other person, your neighbor, you are loving yourself. So when we come in as love in Africa, it's a very sensitive topic that actually has a lot of challenges. But we are coming together as one voice and one Africa. All of us are from Africa, and you've had it here at TAC TV. If you want to listen live you can go into tactv.info, and you can watch as well on Facebook, TAC TV. Now, as towards the end, I want to say my name is Terry P, and this is Hot Reflections. Thank you.
#1 multicultural channel. This is TAG TV.